Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Spearhead, Fire and Jade, the new standalone battle pack game module for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is going to be available very soon in the Skaventide box set launch pack from Games Workshop. Now this was kindly sent as a complimentary review copy by Workshop, and I actually got to check this game out a few months ago. I've been really excited about it ever since. The preview I got for this game answered a bunch of questions for me about what was the accessibility point going to be for Warhammer going forward into the future, and what did that mean as far as like what's a game I could teach my kids, what's a game of Warhammer that is on a lower shelf that's made by Games Workshop than any other product that they currently have, because it's a bit hard to find a Warhammer product that is easy to get into, fun to play, and has like kind of a big wide on-ramp for lots of people. And that's what Spearhead is. If you don't have any context of what this launch box is, you can go up in the cards, check out the review I did today of the Skaventide box set. But basically what I'm reviewing today is the Spearheads themselves, so the sets of miniatures that come in that box. For the Skaven and the Stormcast Eternals, you get two separate Spearheads, as well as the Fire and Jade rulebook and the Spearhead terrain set and accessory set, which is the actual like cardstock two-sided gaming mat, the measuring gauge, the two large and two small sets of terrain, and then the card decks for your twists and battle tactics for playing Spearhead. So what is Spearhead? Well, it's an easy to get into curated version of Warhammer Age of Sigmar that basically lets you just pick an army, not worry about what's in it because you're just constructing the models in the box however you like. Have a pre-constructed army list with a bunch of variations on how their regiment operates, what enhancements they can have, and then play a game in basically Hammerhall on either side of its giant realm gate. So the background for Hammerhall is it's a city built around a huge realm gate that separates the realm of fire and the realm of life. This two-sided gaming mat is those two sides. So basically you're stepping to either side, you're fighting across the draconian deises, and you're trying to hold this like door between realms, this like a war of the worlds, if you will. And you can select any of the 25 Spearheads in this book to do that with. These are just two of them. There are actually two additional Spearheads for the Skaven and the Stormcast Eternals. They're roughly based around the current Vanguard boxes, which are, I think, being relabeled Spearheads. There's been some stuff on Warhammer community about that. But they are ready to go armies out of the box where you can go, oh, I like those models. I'll paint those up, roll up and play a game. You can't get it wrong. There's not going to be a battle tome that's going to change. And absolutely everything you need to play is in this book. This is a standalone book. It does not require the core rules. They're printed in here. All of the Battle Pack Spearhead rules are printed in here as well. And every single army list for Fire and Jade is in this book. I think there's 25 of them overall. There's at least 4 for every Grand Alliance, sometimes more. I think Order and Chaos have additional ones. And yeah, everything from like the Sons of Behemat have one to the Caradron Overlords. And they're just these fun curated sets of miniatures that you paint up and play a game with. Now, what's the difference between this and Combat Patrol, you ask? This was designed to be its own game. I was really hopeful and excited for Combat Patrol, but Combat Patrol isn't its own game. It's just 40K. It's just 40K. It's with two small armies on too big a board. This plays on a 22 by 30 inch board, and you wouldn't think that's enough space to have an experience that feels like an entire game of Warhammer, but you'd be wrong. This game has just as much tension, TS and turning points, and interesting choices to make round by round as a full game of Warhammer. And I say that as someone who has not really personally enjoyed a full game of Warhammer in 3 or 4 years. When you watch the Let's Play today, there are a few things that come into my head that I find really interesting. But the reason why I think I enjoy this so much, even when I probably shouldn't, because it contains tons of things that I don't enjoy, like arbitrarily standing in circles and pushing buttons as scoring mechanics. I actually enjoy them in this game because they're not the only ways to score. Clearly sort of lovingly put into this game is that there isn't just sort of dry win-lose mechanics. There is a rubber band mechanic between the person who is currently behind and the person who's currently ahead in the form of the twist cards. And there are random events. There are crackerjacks that happen where the realm that you're playing on itself has a different layout for its objectives, has different layouts for the twist cards that happen, and different effects that can happen round by round that will affect the game table. Eruptions can come from objectives that damage people. A storm of life can come through and heal models. Vines can come out of the ground and grab people. And there is a clear design choice made to make it feel that whichever side of the table you are playing on, you are interacting with the realm that you're in. So I don't mind the scoring mechanics being standing in circles and pushing buttons, because the circles have names and stories, and there are in-game story effects randomly happening across the table that make you feel like you are in a giant lava flow or a mystical emerald jungle. Both of those things can be true. And I can't get mad at modern game scoring mechanics when I'm also being surprised and delighted by narrative events that are taking place in the course of the game. There is a good balance written into this of those two things. Number two, it's a curated experience. That makes it approachable. For someone, I think very often we take for granted when we try and play Warhammer games these days, our bias of knowledge, that we know things like point values and army construction and force organization and the stuff that makes you look at a wall of miniatures and generally be able to pick out what you want relatively quickly. An approachable miniature war game needs to take all of that out and give you some guidance on what to buy first off. Spearhead literally does that. It says, don't worry about this wall of books. The whole game is just in this one book right here. In fact, the whole game is just this one book, and then pick whichever one of these boxes looks cool to you. Do you like the float dwarves? Do you like the deranged ghoul knights? Do you like the giant dinosaur? Any of those are an army. Just pick the one you like. That's all you need. That one box and this book, and you're ready to rock and roll. So a curated experience, making it approachable, having a sort of like complete game in a box out of this experience has felt fantastic to me. And then finally, the actual gameplay itself has never felt repetitive and has felt more engaging the more I've played it. There's been very few games of Warhammer I've played in the last 10 years where I've played the game tape back and been able to have like big TSN turning points all the way to the end. One of the things that's typically happened in modern Warhammer is by turns 3, 4, or even like 3, 4, 5, typically one of the two players is on a back foot. And some effort's been made in like modern 40K with the Gambit system to try and push that away and have it so that there's like a catch-up mechanic that can happen. But typically there's a lot of negative play experiences where someone's in the cleanup part of the game by turns 4 and 5. This has yet to have that happen. Every single game's been close, and the catch-up mechanics and the rubber band mechanic between the underdog and the currently leading player is such that the game has flipped more than once in my probably 30 games of Spearhead on turn 4, and the person that was the underdog for 3 straight turns has won the game. And never once playing this game have I felt like I was out of it, which is a really hard thing to accomplish on a small game table with a limited number of miniatures. So that cleverness of game design and creating something that is compelling to play over and over again, I think comes down to one factor, and that's the battle tactics card system. The twists are great. They give you round by round underdog advantages for whoever's behind, as well as random in-game effects. But the battle tactics cards are a really, really smart push-pull mechanic between unlocking additional powers, your command abilities, things you can do to boost your troops in your current situation, and your scoring mechanics. So the basic core scoring of the game is hold an objective, hold 2 objectives, hold more objectives. This is in every Warhammer game right now that uses the stand in circles mechanic for scoring. It's an ITC thing that got imported to Warhammer 2 editions ago. And I never really liked. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was a great system. I wasn't a huge fan of it. But the battle tactics cards gives you a hand of 12 cards that are also your command abilities. And when you spend them, if you spend them for an advantage, like rerolling a charge, healing D6 health back on your, I'm going to keep calling it wounds, it's called health now in Age of Sigmar, getting D6 health back on your general or a different hero, then that scoring thing, like for instance, get a unit within 3 of the long opposing table edge, get 2 units within 3 of the 2 short table edges, whatever the bonus scoring is, grab one of the different daises, like the Dracothian dais, the Bahamut dais, all the daises have names. They're locked out forever. You burn the card on the command ability and you can no longer score those points. So with the potential every turn of scoring 3 points for holding 1, holding 2, holding more, the underdog sometimes gets scoring options out of the twist deck then you've also got these 3 in your hand cards that you could burn for your bonuses, like for instance, calling in a dead unit with reinforcements, or making a move, a response move during your opponent's turn, or casting an arcane bolt during your opponent's turn if you want, or you can score additional points off them. And it's a really clever tension where you can really change the tide of a game with a timely use of a battle tactics card, or you can score additional points. And that push-pull between the two, that decision-making, makes the game tense and makes it a lot more interesting because your hand's never going to be the same every game. You're going to get 3 different cards at the start of each one. It's also used cleverly as a way to balance out the double round. The double round is really powerful. This is only a 4-turn game. But if you went second in the last battle round and you win the initiative roll and choose to go first, you don't refill your battle tactics. So if you're empty, you've just lost 3 points. There's just no chance for you to score them, and you've lost 3 cards basically until the next turn. So you can hope you kill your opponent really good and score again, but you've literally opted out of taking three victory points potentially by having those in your hand. It's a really clever way of not punishing, but making it a real choice between having your opponent on the ropes and wanting to like break their spirit by getting the double round, or potentially being able to not score, as many points during the next battle round. So it really has, in the 30-ish games I've played so far, meant that all of our games are relatively close to within like 3 to 4 points at the end of the game. Even with like a blowout is like 3 to 4 points. Usually 2 to 3 points is like the actual spread at the end of the game. And I've never felt out, and my opponents have never felt out. It's been tight and tense right to the end. And that is a really, really successful piece of game design. We've done our best to break it so far, and we have not been able to. And then last but not least, and we've played, and you'll see all week where you're going to see games of this get played with a bunch of different armies. So we've really tried. And then last but not least, the thing I think I like the most about this Fire and Jade book in general is there are a few pictures of studio miniatures in here. Every single army shot of the various armies are staff armies. And that, I think, is a really interesting and curious observation about this book. This book was made by people in their late 20s to, mid 30s to 40s who are Warhammer fans who work a full-time corporate job and probably don't have as much time to play Warhammer as they want. And the staff themselves, not miniature painters, not paid painters, people who just make and work in their game, all painted armies. And everybody's credited by first name in here. Their armies are put up in here. 25 different people played with fully painted armies in their like playtesters league and got their armies photographed and put in here. That's really impressive because that means that this was the game for people in that age range that really want to paint and play Warhammer games, but don't necessarily have the time to invest in playing Warhammer the way it's currently being played. It's been so popular. It's the most popular game I think probably I've seen getting played by staff. If the photography in this book is any sort of like indication. And that means it's basically a game they made for me. I want to be able to play 2 or 3 games with my friends in a night. I want to be able to play on a table this size and have a couple of beers and laughs and enjoy the process, right? And play with different armies more than once and sit down and be like, I really like this small collection of miniatures. I'm going to paint these 18 guys from this Spearhead and play a game, and not have to just be painting endless rank and file or keeping up with some kind of FAQ or keeping up with some kind of like errata. This game's done. It's in like from the way it's laid out, I'm betting if this is successful, they'll do another board, another Spearhead book that's 2 different 2 different realms or whatever. And we'll see another version of this, but this is a complete game. Everything's in this box. I don't anticipate they're going to have like meta watch articles and FAQs and a bunch of like additional like sort of like balance updates for Spearhead. God, please don't. It won't need it. I guarantee you it won't need it. You can't tinker. You can't skew. You can't change the lists. People are just going to play with it and have a good time. So that's my excitement. So I think I'm communicating my excitement about what it is. And I've done a pretty good job describing what it is. It's a 4-turn game. You're scoring off your battle tactics hand. You're scoring off your grabbing objectives. You guys can watch the game being played in the Let's Play, which is also up right now. Be up in the cards. You can click on it. But what does my my crystal ball say about this? There's there's two things I think. So one, this is a much better product than Comp Patrol. It's just better. It's better thought out. Comp Patrol seems like it was product first backwards. This seems like it's game first out to the product. They went, let's make a game, and then these spearheads fit into that game, versus let's take a look at all these Comp Patrols we have, and then we'll just figure out a way of playing a small version of 40K with them. This is a separate game from Age of Sigmar, right? It's not pitched battles. It's not the match play games. It's not Path to Glory. It's Spearhead. It's its own way of playing, and it's very distinct and feels very distinct. This won't succeed unless Games Workshop gets behind it. The more emphasis is taken away from this as being something that's a legitimate way of playing Warhammer, and that is great for new hobbyists, and that is something that is to be excited about. This like community driven, I'm hoping, play anywhere, play in the pub, play at your gaming club, play at your school version of Warhammer. The more excited Workshop is about this, and the more it makes people that engage with it this way feel like they're engaging with a legitimate part of the Games Workshop hobby, the more successful it will be. The more this is portrayed by both the customers and by Workshop, or by just the amount they communicate about their products, the more it's portrayed as being the stepping stone into playing real Warhammer, the less successful this will be. And this is a huge opportunity, because this is a door into the Games Workshop hobby. Being able to walk into any store, or even being a retailer. If I was a retailer right now and I didn't have a huge Age of Sigmar community, this would be the way I'd be selling the Age of Sigmar game, is Spearhead. You can play it. You don't need a ton of table space. If you can run a Magic tournament, you can play Warhammer in your store now, and you don't have to know everything about the game. You need to know about one book, and then just have the Spearhead boxes and a paint rack, and you can be selling Warhammer in your store all of a sudden. I'd be very excited about this as a product line, because it's very sellable, and it's very good to have kids come in and learn to play Warhammer with, or a gaming club, or a gaming night. But Workshop has a bad habit of paving over their own success with whatever the next hot thing is. And if we start to see a bunch of Meta Watch articles about the tournament leaders for Age of Sigmar and pitch battles and match play and yada, 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 and if they outweigh talking about new hobbyists and community leagues and, you know, Sunday Night Spearhead, if that gets paved over, this will feel like the second class citizen, the way that Comp Patrol immediately did for 40K. No one talks about Comp Patrol anymore. It's a White Dwarf only article thing. It just got swept away. This will happen to Spearhead unless Workshop themselves are equally, I think, behind it and equally loud and proud about it. So I hope they are, because I think it's a great product. This is the most excited I've been about a Games Workshop product since Cursed City. And that was a double-edged sword for me too. So or any of the Quest games, any of the standalone Quest games and the board games and stuff like that from a design point of view. Miniatures are beautiful. Gameplay is super fun. It's really compelling. And this is the most excited I've seen my friends who played Warhammer about a Warhammer game in a long time too, as we've played it. So yeah, there it is. Spearhead, Fire and Jade. I think this is one of the coolest products Workshop's made in a while. I really want a 40K version of this now. Like bad. Like I want, you know who you are. Just take over both teams. Just make me a 40K version of this that plays on a small gaming surface. I don't know how you handle shooting. Just get rid of shooting. Just make the shooting less interesting. I don't know. Do something with shooting. You can get creative with it. I want a 40K version of this so bad. I love Age of Sigmar. I want a 40K version of this too. I think this is a really, really, really well-designed modern war game that has lots of interesting mechanics in it. Yeah, and I hope it does well. I'm going to be playing it all summer. I'm going to teach my kids to play this summer. This is the summer that my son and my daughter get into Warhammer if they want. I'm going to force them, but this is the door that they're going to on-ramp through. And I'm going to play it all summer. And you guys are going to get to watch, and also all next week. And also tomorrow, we'll be doing more stuff with the Skaventide box and Spearhead. So there it is, my GMG review of Spearhead, Fire and Jades. My thoughts on it. I painted up all these miniatures. I played, a couple dozen games. It's been a lot of fun. So big thanks for Workshop sending along the copy of Skaventide review, and you guys for watching. Next time, I'm Ash. Have a great